Patterson again. We are here today in my kitchen to do some cooking. I am going to be cooking one of my favorite things, which is basically just soup. I really love soup, and Chelsea's over here laughing at me. She also eats a lot of the soup that I make. The soup I'm making today is basically just like a whatever's in the fridge kind of soup. So I'm going to be throwing some vegetables in. I have some chicken, I have some rice, and the great thing about soup is that it is one of those meals that you can just throw together with whatever you have on you at the moment. As long as you have basically some sort of stock, you can just put stuff together. Stock, onions, garlic. That's kind of the basis of any soup. So let's see what we've got in the fridge. Today we have chicken. It should be fully defrosted at this point. We have some kale. That's going to be yummy. We have some broccoli. That'll be good too. Much green. We're going to get more than just that in there. I've discovered that keeping my kale and my broccoli in a plastic bag in the fridge seems to keep it somewhat more fresh. So I've been doing that. Zucchini, pepper. It's still pretty green here. Do you have anything other colored? I think that's it.
I mean, that pepper's a pretty orange. That's nice.
That's a good color. And then we need olive oil. That's important. I have other olive oil, but it's almost out. 2 olive oils. I also have garlic and a whole onion. Very important. And let's see. Chelsea, do we need anything else? Chicken broth.
Broth is good.
And rice.
Ooh, rice is smart.
Rice is smart. Rice is going to be one of the last things we make, actually. Something that Chelsea and I have discovered more recently is that if you put your rice in too early, it just sucks up all the liquid in your soup, and suddenly your soup has no liquid. You don't want that. So, and then we need a big pot. One big pot. That is just going to go over here. And everything's going to get cooked in the big pot. Ooh, actually, also, we're going to do the chicken. We're going to cook the chicken first before it goes in the soup. So that's going to be in the oven. We're going to boil it. It's a whole thing. Chelsea's learning too today.
I am learning. I've never watched Hannah make soup. I just eat Hannah's soup.
Oh, yeah, we're using that. Yeah, this is new. It's new for everybody. So, okay. Is there anything else we need? Let me think.
I need like the salt and the spices.
You're right. It is an important stage. So let's talk about spices as well. Like Chelsea said, salt and pepper, very important. Always need that salt and pepper. We also are going to want, let's see, what do we like? I like little cumin. I like some chili powder. I like some ground red cayenne pepper. We're going to throw in some crushed red pepper. I like my soup a little spicy. CRP. Oregano is a big one. And there's something I'm missing. What am I missing? Maybe that's it. I think that's it. I think the cumin was what I was thinking of. Yeah, that's all the things. I was just thinking of cumin. This soup, I've decided, is like almost a chili-like flavor. But again, you can kind of do anything. Honestly, like salt and pepper is kind of enough sometimes, as long as you get all the other stuff in it. So, first step, we're gonna cut the onion. So we're just doing a little choppy of the onions here. I might take a pause before I choppy the next half of onions, and we're gonna start getting some heat going over here. We're currently using this front burner, and while the vegetables are sauteing, I like to go at a heat of 5. That's like a medium heat for all of those of you who don't have numbers on yours like mine. And I'm gonna put some olive oil in before I put the onion in, but the olive oil won't go in until this heats up a little bit. And then I want the olive oil itself to also heat up. I just want everything to heat up a little bit. I lied. I'm going to put the olive oil in now. But I do want it to heat up before I put in the onions.
Oh, look. There's baby Madeline.
Aw, yeah, this is my niece. And that's my nephew.
Yay.
Yeah,
Babies.
got my little fam here. If you join us at camp this summer in session B, you will get to meet Madeline. She's going to be there with us.
Wow.
Yeah, very excited about it. Just keep this cutting board clear.
Maybe just put that in the soup.
Yeah, I just threw it right in. Yum. No, that would be gross. The thing I don't have today that I normally have and kind of wish I had was a jalapeno.
That's what I was kind of wondering, but I wasn't sure if you were trying to make a
less spicy version. No, we'll just put more other
Amanda
spices
makes
in.
very tasty soups, and I think sometimes she's just trying to see how many people she can get to like cry. She's like weeding out who's tough and who's not in her friend group.
Chelsea's always tough. Always.
Yeah, don't you forget it.
Don't you forget it. Peppers. I like to do peppers second after the onions. I've kind of just like learned via experimentation which of these vegetables tend to take longer to cook. And peppers and onions are ones that we generally want to be a little bit more sauteed. You can get your onions down to like a nice golden brown. That deserved a little shoulder shimmy.
It did.
So
It's also where all the flavor is.
it is, which is also why we do it first. So, you know, you might think to yourself, but why am I not making my soup in like a fry pan first or something like that? And the reason is that if I, like whatever I do in that pan right now, that really big pot that we're gonna use, all of those flavors that we're cooking together in it are gonna stay in it and they're gonna become part of the soup. Whereas if I was in a fry pan cooking things, I might lose some of the goodness. There is a show on Netflix that I've never ever seen called Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat.
Jensen and I watched that.
And I hear it's good.
It's really good. The first episode is about olive oil and I didn't realize that they have like a machine that gets the olives out of the trees, and it just is kind of like this claw that's like, like this, and just like gets all the olives to fall down.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun thing to learn, and I think about that a lot actually.
That's so cool. So yeah, so I don't know, I feel like even just thinking about salt, fat, acid, and heat together in foods has helped me think about what I'm cooking and where and why. So the olive oil is providing some of the fat. Later on we're going to put that chicken in and we're going to add all of the chicken juices as well, because that's going to add the fat as well. And if there's no fat in your soup, it's not tasty. Fat is literally flavor.
Fat is flavor, and fat also holds on to other flavors.
Yes. It's going to tie all the flavors together really nicely. Ooh, listen to that sizzle. That's what you like.
Don't put my coffee in the soup. I'm just gonna set it here.
Oh, okay. No coffee in the soup, you said? Is that not? We don't do that?
I mean, you're the soup expert, but I don't think so.
We're also, so that was the fat. We're also going to add some salt later. I tend to let the veggies cook for a bit first before I add the salt, but I like to get the salt in prior to adding the chicken broth. And then salt, fat, acid. Where does the acid come from? In this one, there's maybe not a ton of acid. Sometimes I'll add like a tomato. I like that kind of acid in my soup.
The peppers have some for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe do like a squeeze of lemon or something.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I don't know if I have any lemons or anything, but that's a good idea. You can find different ways to get acid in. And then heat, obviously, we're cooking it. Sizzle it up.
Planties?
So many plants. Hannah's house has many plants. I counted last night. I think there's 45 separate plants in this building right now.
Whoa.
And by building, I mean my apartment.
Yeah.
To be clear. This is good. Yum. Okay. We're gonna throw these in. We're gonna let these guys go all on their own, do their thing. And while we're doing that, we're gonna shift gears slightly. And we're gonna get the chicken going here. Gross.
Yeah.
I kind of hate meat. It's one of my least favorite things, actually, as it turns out, but I do this for the sake of tasty soups later on.
What part of the chicken is that, Hannah?
I like to use chicken thighs because there's a little bit of like darker meat in it. So that thing, we use this.
Darker meat translates to more fat.
Yeah, it's all about the fat. I tend to wash my hands a lot when I'm working with chicken because it's raw and gross and raw and gross.
That's good.
But it will become delicious and not gross. Okay, so things that are going to go in here, we need more olive oil because, you know, again, fat.
Squeezing a glass bottle. How's that working?
Not so well. That's why we have another one.
A backup bottle.
Backup bottle. Ooh, this one's eco-friendly too, and heart-healthy, and estate-grown. I don't know what any of those things mean. That's why I know what some of those things mean.
That sounds rich.
That's so rich. Are we rich?
We're rich. Did you get that from TJ Maxx?
The other one I did. This one I got from Meyer. I haven't gone to TJ Maxx in a while because, you know, social distancing and stay-at-home orders and all that goodness. We put a little salt and pepper on it. More salt and pepper. That was just pepper. Here's the salt. I always use the grinders because I just really like having fresh ground pepper in particular, and then, you know, I feel bougie with my pink salt. And typically with a grinder, I've found that 2 to 1 is the right ratio for salt to pepper for me personally. You might have a different ratio. A lot of this is experimentation. I literally don't use a recipe. I'll write you a recipe, I guess, but like, recipes, what are those? Yeah. Okay, so the chicken, it's all together. It's super nasty and gross. We love it, and we're gonna lay it out flat.
Really selling it.
I really don't like raw meat. We just lay it out super flat. The great thing about chicken thighs is, as you can see, they really do just like lay out flat. And we might have to do a little, there's 6 of them in here. I've found that 6 is a nice number for this soup that I make. We're going to be broiling this, so if you have any little bits of chicken, I like to nestle them close to the bigger bits of chicken. Otherwise, they get really, really crispy. And things start being on fire. We don't like that. No. I do like fire, but not like that. Okay.
That is too much heat.
That is too much heat. So, Chelsea, come, let's see a view of this. You can see that this tray that we're putting this on is like kind of close, but not too close to the top. I've discovered that too close means you burn things. We're going to put my broiler on high. We're going to put the timer for 4 minutes. And then we're going to pull it out. We're going to flip them around. There's a whole process here. I'm still experimenting with the chicken cooking part of this process, so we'll see how it goes today. Ooh, these are getting nice and crispy in here. Look at that. Yum. Oh, yeah. This is the good stuff. Okay, let's go back to our vegetables now. Next up, let's get the broth or the kale prepared. We're probably gonna just use this much kale. Leave a little kale left over.
Are you gonna massage it?
I am, actually. So, yeah, this is a technique that I learned from a friend. We're gonna take all of our kale off the stems and stuff. And then we're gonna chop it, and then we're gonna put it in ice water for a little bit. We're just gonna go across it one way, and then across in the other direction. Chopped with Hannah. And then I watched that. Oh no, what did I use last night? Something else. I'm gonna use this one today. It's a good size. This little guy. My water always comes out hot, so I always keep cold water in my fridge.
Smart.
Cold water in my fridge is gonna go in here with my kale. And you can put ice cubes in your water as well. You can do a bunch of things. So we're just gonna let this get nice and chilly. All the kales and the waters and kales and waters. All right, now I'll refill that and get it back in the fridge in a bit. Just let that be right now. We might massage it a little bit, and then we're gonna come back and massage it again. It's very cold. So the point of massaging your kale, as far as I understand it, is to make it less bitter. Is that right? I think that's right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Clearly.
We have to pull the chicken out.
We can just put it up here. That'll do.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Pull the chicken out. We are going to rotate it. Check this chicken out. Look at that.
Cooking, but not cooked, you know?
It is not yet cooked. No, we don't want it to yet be cooked. So we're actually going to flip it over now. Flip the chicken so that it cooks on all sides. So that was 4 minutes on high on the first side. We're going to do 3 minutes on high on the second side. Like that. To our timer. 3 minutes. It's going. Those are doing really well. We want to throw some more stuff in there soon because they're going for it. So I'm going to get this broccoli chopped up, and then zucchini is the last vegetable I have to throw in. You'll notice that I talked about garlic at the beginning, and there's no garlic in yet. That is because I have learned via experimentation that garlic cooks really quickly, and you end up with burnt garlic if you're not careful. And I don't particularly personally love my garlic to be burnt, so I put my garlic in close to the end. It also kind of like preserves more of the garlic flavor, I've been told. I think there's something else that it does if you put it in at the beginning, like maybe it infuses the flavor with like a garlicky base, like a more like caramelized garlicky base or something like that, sort of like our caramelized onions that we're working on right now, but I'm not 100% sure. That's just what I've heard. I've been told. I wasn't really ever taught to cook. I just sort of decided I liked soup and started cooking soup. So, and I discovered over time, kind of like I was telling you, that soup is one of those things that once you know how to make the base of a soup, you can make any soup. This is getting a little too burnt, so we're going to turn the temperature down a little bit. I just dropped it to 4, but I might actually go to 3. And I'm going to add a little more olive oil to it. Okay, zucchini, and then we're about ready.
Zucchini.
Ready for what, you say? Ready to add in the chicken broth and spices. Oh, and we still got the kale, but the kale can wait. The kale actually cooks really fast, so sometimes I let most of the things chill out in the chicken broth and then just put the kale in for the last like 20-ish or so minutes. I find that the broccoli and the zucchini are most likely to kind of disintegrate into the soup, which I'm okay with. You know, it's basically just a like I said, chicken. It's a kitchen sink sort of soup. It's whatever you got. All right, we gotta do garlic still. We'll throw the kale in later. Hey, stop that.
Okay.
Okay. Whoop. 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 We got these, we got those. We're doing garlic. Aha! There's chicken. Chicken looking a little more cooked now. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
That's what I want. All right, flipping it over for the last segment here. Probably. These are pretty big chickens.
Big size, save lives.
Thank you, Lizzo. There we go. Okay. So now our broil is actually going to go down to low. Hey, I said low. Thank you. And then we're going to put this chicken back in for, let's go 4 more minutes. And that should do it. The key being also that it's all going to go into the soup eventually. And that is also going to help. All right, garlic and then
Cook it.
chicken broth. Yes, the soup will cook it. So if they're, so I don't want to overcook the chicken is the thing, which is why I'm like trying to keep it not going for too long, because if you overcook your chicken, it's dry.
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 No one wants dry chicken.
I certainly don't want dry chicken.
When you think of soup, a quality you don't think of.
It's dry.
It's dry.
No. I love garlic, so I'm going to put in a lot of garlic. My sister is a really good cook. She's a really good baker as well, and baking is much harder than cooking, because in baking it's basically chemistry. You have to like follow the recipe specifically, because if you don't, the chemical changes that are happening don't happen the way they're supposed to. And I, as you can tell maybe from this, don't like to follow a recipe.
Hannah's a bit of a raccoon, so rules are more fun for her if she can be flexible with them.
Oh yeah. Look at all that goodness. Okay. Kale is still doing its thing, and that's great. Next step, chicken broth. I'm a big fan of one of these big guys. There's 6 cups of chicken broth in here. 6 cups is the number of cups I add at any given time. You can also get these in cans, which is so.
This container is actually squeezable, unlike the glass bottle.
And I'm going to put all of this in. I just turned the heat up to high, because the thing I'm going to do next this is bring this liquid up to a boil. And once it's boiling, we're going to cover it, or we're probably actually going to cover it just about now once I get all the stuff off the sides. Stuff. So, yes, we're going to cover it, and then we are going to bring it up to a boil, and then it's going to simmer. My rule for soup is simmer for an hour. You can simmer for about 40 minutes. You can simmer for more than an hour. But that's just kind of my general rule of thumb. And now, the spices. This is the moment for the spices. We're going to throw in some more salt and pepper. Oh, we're going to get the chicken first. Chicken. chicken gets to sit here for 10 minutes. I have been told that if you cut into a meat immediately after cooking it, the juices just like they're like on the surface, and then you cut it and then all the juices run out of it. But if you let it sit for about 10 minutes after you cook it, it will like solidify again a little bit more, and all the juices will stay in your chicken, which is what you want, because the juices are the fat and the fat is the flavor. Fat is good. All right, this dude, pepper, I stopped counting, but I usually do like 50, 60 of these guys. It's a lot. What are we probably on, like 15?
I also was not counting. I was thinking about Lizzo again and the song Juice, and in my head I was trying to think about how we could make a Lizzo themed cooking segment.
That would be cool. That was 50-ish, I think. So we're going to do, again, half, so this should be 25. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. You make your own choices about how much or how little salt you want in that. Again, with the no recipe thing, I'm just going to put stuff in. This is probably about a teaspoon-ish, maybe a teaspoon and a half. I'm going to throw in, there you go, that's probably 2 teaspoons if I had to guess right there. You can totally do what you want in terms of if it makes you feel better to measure things, you should measure things. Usually I literally just throw stuff in. That's probably a tablespoon. This is a ground red cayenne pepper, so it's going to be a little spicy. It could be less spicy, it could be more spicy, whatever you want. A little chili powder, and we'll do, yeah, that much, maybe 3 teaspoons. This is definitely going to be a spicier one. But again, the last time I made this soup, there's a whole jalapeno in it. There's not this time. So oregano is your friend. Do a nice little like palm full of that stuff. And then ground cumin, another one of those tradish chili spices.
Ah!
That wasn't where that
You
was
put the
supposed to
lid
go.
in the soup.
I'm gonna wash that. And again,
Just kidding.
a little bit more of that guy. Whoop. All right. Stir it all up. And it's just starting to boil, which is excellent. Put a lid on it. Let it come up to a rolling boil. That means that the water is like bubble, 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 bubble. That's the technical term
That's
for
the
it.
technical. Yeah, I've seen that on cooking shows before.
Which should be happening very soon now. And when that happens, we are dropping things. Oh my gosh, Chelsea. We have a game with each other at camp where we hide this pickle pen in each other's things. I gotta go hide it in someone's things now. Wow.
It's been there for a while. I
yeah.
conveniently put it there right after you made soup the last time.
That,
so
yeah.
you haven't really been living in your spices much since then.
Not so much. Okay, so it was at a rolling boil. Rolly, rolly. Look at that. You can see the color's more red now thanks to all the spices I just threw in. And I just turned the temperature down to 2. That is just above where my thing says it's on a simmer. And I've found that because there's a lot of liquid in this, it tends to need just a little bit more than your average simmer. I'm a fan generally of putting things away as I go. You do you. In a second, we'll pause the video. The things we're gonna do in the meantime, before you come back to us, this chicken, in a couple more minutes, I'm gonna be taking 2 forks, and not that fork.
Throwing them. Fork fight!
We're gonna take 2 forks, and I'm gonna pull the chicken apart. I'm a fan of pulled chicken in my soup. You can chop it, it goes faster. You can chunk it. You can do whatever you want with it. Your soup can go in. Your chicken can become any form of soup you want it to. We're also going to throw this kale in, and we're going to massage it more. That means we're going to squeeze it in the water before we throw it in. And the last thing we're going to do is make a cup of rice. 1 cup of rice is going to go into this soup, but the cup of rice is going to be literally the very last thing. Like, I'm going to put the rice in the soup, and then we'll serve it and eat it. So that's it. We'll come back to you when it's all done and let you know how it is. Hey everybody, the soup is done. We're about to put the last pieces together. Blah. Look at that deliciousness. Oh my gosh. So, while you were gone, I did decide to chop up the chicken because it's easier and I was feeling lazy. So I just chopped it up instead of pulling it apart this time. And like I said at the beginning, I did throw all of the juices in. So I literally took that sheet pan that I had cooked the chicken on, and I just like dumped all of the juices into here. And we put in the kale. You can see there's a lot of kale in there this time. And the last thing I did was cook some rice. So that is 1 cup of rice. I have jasmine rice today, but I've used a bunch of different rices before that work. I'm gonna hand the phone to Chelsea while I put the rice in the soup. Turn that baby off. Rice in soup. Like I said, step the last. Even though this rice is fully cooked and has been chilling here now for probably about 30 minutes, it will soak up all of the good liquid, and then your soup becomes something not exactly like a soup. The last time I made this, we used it to put chips with. We ate it like it was like nachos almost.
Like a burrito bowl from Qdoba.
Yeah, like a burrito bowl. And we put it with quesadillas, and we ate it like soup. We ate it a bunch of different ways. It was really good. Soup time.
Soup time. Look at that. You can see flavors. Too bad we don't have smell. I mean,
how cool that would be.
I have the ability to smell. I don't have the ability to share smells, and that is what I regret in this moment.
Also, this is just like a super healthy soup here. It's got
Super
chicken, tons of veggies. It's like basically all the veggies we need for the week. Also, cool thing about this soup is this is both gluten-free and dairy-free. So if you're a person with dietary restrictions, this fulfills some of them.
Oh,
it smells good. All right.
Going to our little
going to our workstation over here. And it's probably gonna be a little hot, but let's see how it came out. Okay. Gonna get some chicken and some veggies on here. Oh wow. That's good. It's hot, but it's good. Nice. We did it.
That's good stuff. Good soup.